So, did you succeed building this REST API? Here's my solution. Now, since we have some programming experience or some web development experience even, we could get started without ChatGPT by simply creating a new folder and opening it in our code editor, in my case here Visual Studio Code, and then inside of this project, for example with help of this integrated terminal here in VS Code, we could create a new Node.js project by running npm init. And we can add -y here to make sure that we answer all the default questions this command would ask us with yes. And npm, this npm command here, is available if you have Node.js installed. Now this adds such a package.json file, which is a crucial file for Node.js projects and which is needed for managing the dependencies, the third-party packages such a Node.js project might use. Now, of course, we could have also started with a prompt where we tell ChatGPT that we want to build such a REST API and that we want to have step-by-step instructions on how to do that. We could do this, but since here I'm assuming that we have this basic knowledge, we might already know how such a project is created. Indeed, that's very likely, and therefore we might create some base files on our own. We might even write some basic code on our own without asking ChatGPT. And that would all be fine. Now here I simply created this package.json file by running npm init, so by initializing this project with npm init, and I'll use that as a starting point then. But again, if you chose to write more code on your own without using ChatGPT, that would also be fine. Now here I'll use ChatGPT to give me the basic code for this REST API, and for that I'll send the following prompt to ChatGPT. You are an experienced Node.js developer, and I'm including the programming language here in this role because I know that I want to use Node.js. If I would not specify this here, and I would then ask to get a REST API, ChatGPT might give me that REST API built with Python or other programming languages, which would of course be fine, but here the goal was to use Node.js. So therefore, I include this language or this runtime in my role description already. And then I'll continue by providing the exact goal to ChatGPT by saying, give me a basic REST API skeleton for my app.js file. So with that, I'm setting the goal, and I'm basically telling ChatGPT to give me the basic code, the basic REST API code for a file which I will call app.js, which is a file I will simply create here, so that I already set this file name on my own without ChatGPT telling me how to name this file. And of course, I'll then specify some details. Now, the idea, of course, is, as you learned, to split this application up into multiple building blocks, but nonetheless, I'll start with one big first building block, which is this general code skeleton that I want to have. And then we'll fill this code with more life step by step in subsequent steps. Now, for this first step, I'll add more context to this initial prompt, and I'll say, use the Express framework, which is a Node.js framework that simplifies the process of building web servers and websites and REST APIs with Node.js. And I'll say, add the following routes. And then I'll just add a bullet point list here where I define those routes. And I basically repeat what was mentioned on the slide, that I want to have a post route for /meetups, a get/meetups route, a patch /meetups/ID route, and a delete/meetups/ID route. So that I want to have these basic routes in my base app skeleton. So in the base code this generates for me. And for the moment, that's all. That's my first step here. I'm not going to add more information here. Instead, I'm going to do this in subsequent prompts, and I'll send this to ChatGPT. And with that, ChatGPT gives me that code. I could have told ChatGPT to give me just the code without any extra explanations. Here it gave me this first sentence here, and it added some additional explanation at the end here, but it mainly gave me the code, and you learned how you could change the instruction to make sure that you only get the code. We could have added another piece of information to our initial prompt telling ChatGPT to just reply with the code without extra explanations. But here, most importantly, we got the code, and this indeed looks like a basic REST API skeleton. It even already added some code to parse incoming data, assuming that it might be using the JSON data format, so that's good. And I'll therefore copy that code and add it to my app.js file. And in that code, I got these basic routes, the post meetups route, the get meetups route, and the patch and delete meetups routes, which do accept these dynamic IDs using the correct Node Express syntax. So that's looking good. And we're therefore ready to add the next building block to this application.